Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Saturday, Sci-Fi Saturday. We made it Sci-Fi Saturday. We made it. I have got some wonderful guests. I got Leighann Lord this morning. She's on the show. Hold on one second. Wait, here comes Leighann Lord. And then I've also got Bianca from Talk Heathen. She's amazing. She's here. They're here. And I've also got, see, I can do this. Don't laugh. And I've also got Dr. David Kyle Johnson. I got all these wonderful people on my show ready to do some serious power nerding. Good morning, everyone.
Good
morning. You're all on the screen.
Good morning.
I've kind of changed the way I've done some things, but you're all up. Good morning, Leighann. Are you ready for the weekend?
Well, I am now.
I know, right? The morning show snuck up on Leighann this morning.
It did. Because I had a show late last night. And so, right after those, your adrenaline's up, you don't necessarily go right to bed, as is the plan. And, I'm one of those, ignore the alarm people.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Thank goodness for my cat. My cat's like, it's Sci-Fi Saturday. Let's go.
V, I didn't know you were into Star Trek. I was a little surprised. V actually requested that Dr. Kyle be on the show because of his awesome sci-fi nerdiness, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, Kyle, it seems very informal to call you Kyle because I was introduced to you through your great courses. Lectures.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So I actually was listening to you while I was living in Columbus, Ohio, and just getting into all of this philosophy, skepticism, all of it. So before I moved to Austin and got involved with the ACA, any of it, you were kind of part of that introduction into a new way of thinking and philosophy in general. And the fact that you used Star Trek was just, the clincher for me. So I'm very
excited. That's great. Which course did you listen to? Did you do Big Questions? Did you do Sci-Fi?
So I started Sci-Fi first, and then you mentioned in one of the first lectures that if you wanted to watch this one and appreciate everything in its entirety, you should listen to Big Questions first. So I went back and I listened to all of Big Questions, which was really, really good.
Now, please catch me up. What Big Questions? What's the summary of that?
Okay, so what V's talking about here is some courses I have with the Great Courses. You know what the Great Courses are?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I have 3 courses with the Great Courses. I have the Big Questions of Philosophy, which he's talking about here. It's 36 lectures in here. It looks like this. It's 36 lectures, and basically it's an introduction to philosophy course. I actually use the text of the lectures as an intro text where I'm teaching intro here at King's College and that kind of stuff. And then I have another course called Sci-Fi, Science Fiction as Philosophy, which we talked about off air a while ago. That's the one where I wear, this was also off air, it's where I wear the doctor's tie to talk about Doctor Who as a pacifist. And so I talk about philosophical topics that mainly weren't covered in Big Questions. There's some overlap, but mainly stuff that wasn't covered in Big Questions of Philosophy. It's 24 lectures. And it is actually something that you can go through, like at the end of each episode, in the middle of the first, and then at the end of each episode, I say, if you want, go off and watch such and such, and then come back, and we'll talk. And I'll summarize it and talk about it. And I kind of try. It's called Sci-Fi Science Fiction as Philosophy. So I'm trying to actually treat science fiction as something that's presenting a philosophical argument and then examining that argument.
Oh, you don't have to convince me. I love that.
Good. Well, then you will love the course. So I treat Inception as an argument that we shouldn't be concerned about reality. The Matrix as an argument that we should. The Matrix sequels as a kind of an argument that we have free will. Carl Sagan's Contact is an argument for the compatibility of religion and science. Arrival has to do with radical translation. The 13th Floor is an argument that we live in a computer simulation. Starship Troopers is an argument against fascism. I treat Star Trek at one point as like I look at the Prime Directive and argue about it as a kind of anti-colonialist thing, and I talk about the Prime Directive and anti-colonialism and that kind of stuff. The last lecture is on 2001 and whether it's the most Nietzschean film ever. I argue that it's not. But that's what V is talking about. And I have great.
Okay.
The other one I have. I also use Sci-Fi in, but not as much, is metaphysics, called Exploring Metaphysics. It's a little bit, like, it's what I teach my upper course. So Big Questions is intro, Sci-Fi is like my sophomore level class, and then Metaphysics is like my senior level with what I teach at the senior level. It's a little bit more in depth but like I do quantum mechanics and relativity in there. I talk about whether we live in a computer simulation. I talk about time travel, although time travel comes up in sci-fi too. But anyway,
I remember.
If we are living,
Sorry,
I was going to say, if we're living in a computer simulation, we need a reboot. Like, can we get back to the sea
brother got into the controls and is playing around, and it's not okay.
Yeah, in fact, like a lot of people have used recent events since like 2016 as part of an argument that maybe we are living in a computer simulation. Essentially, we're in someone's simulation that wants to see what would happen if this ridiculous thing that never would happen. What would it actually be like if that happened, right? And so they run a simulation to see, and so that's at least a little evidence.
And by they, we mean the mice from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? They're the ones running the sim here.
Yes. It could be the mice. It could be whoever's doing things in the 13th floor. It could be the AI from the Matrix. Right.
Okay, lots of possible suspects here.
Yes,
can I just say I've been rewatching Voyager. Star Trek Voyager.
Amazing.
And it's almost like watching it for the first time. I didn't realize, once again, like DS9, how many episodes I'd missed. And I just last night got up to season 2, I don't remember the number, the Tuvix episode.
Oh, yeah.
And I bring that up because there's the ethical questions in that. It's like my head was just spinning. And for anybody, who's listening, in that episode, there's a transporter accident and 2 characters become merged into one. Tuvix and Commander Tuvix, Neelix and Commander Tuvok become one person. And then the ethics, the biggest ethical question is, well, now he's a person. He is a functioning, living, breathing human being or character. Now they have the opportunity to separate them back. But that means losing the one that's been created. And I got to tell you, had I known it was going to be that deep, I would not have had a glass of bourbon before that episode. Like, I needed to be stone cold sober to go, what is happening here?
Oh, yeah. They do such a good job in that episode of at first making you dislike the character and then just gradually making you care about them to the point where you're suddenly like very emotionally invested in the outcome.
Yeah, Tuvix makes so the issues that you're talking about here at least partly revolve around a philosophical issue of personal identity, and I specifically use Tuvix in my metaphysics course for great courses to talk.
So maybe I could be at that level. I was just gonna jump in at the bottom, because I like starting at the beginning, like baby step me through it. I love that. Like I downloaded a chess program ages ago, hated it, went and got the kids version. People take better care teaching children how to do things sometimes than they do grown-ups, and so they'll find a fun way to teach a concept that they may not think that a grown-up needs that. But beginning's beginning.
Yeah, well, if you're interested, if you want to do them in order, do big questions, then sci-fi, then metaphysics, even though that's not release order. Do them in that order, and that'll get you that kind of introduction that you're looking for.
And then I'll be fun at cocktail parties again if we ever have them.
Fun is a relative term, but
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Usually in the corner by myself. Yes.
Oh, I love it. I just yesterday was talking with my mom, and she's like, I don't have anything to watch. And then we got on the subject of Star Trek because I told her what I was doing this morning, and she's like, I never watched past Next Gen. That was the last thing that she had watched. And I was like, you should watch Voyager. And she was like, why? Tell me why I should watch. So I spent the next 15 minutes just explaining all the different characters and what I loved about it. So she's going to start watching Voyager for the first time, which is exciting.
I'm almost embarrassed to say, but Chris knows this. I avoided Voyager for a long time. Like I did Enterprise. I deserve an award for that. I did Next Gen. I did Deep Space Nine. And I don't know. I think in my memory, I got caught up in the being mad at 7 of 9 thing.
Yeah.
And it sort of damaged some of my files. But going back, I'm like, oh, wow, this is a good show. I'm really happy, in so what I'm up to so far. End of season 2.
I've been trying to get into DS9, and honestly, I'm halfway through season 1, and it's a slog. And I don't know if I've been told it gets better, so I want to.
It does,
but Oh my goodness. It's
It can be a labor of love. But having watched Enterprise, I can watch anything. Or Babylon 5. If you get the first season of Babylon 5, you can watch anything.
Yeah, if you can get through that. Well, this is an awkward moment. Awkward, because I believe if I remember correctly, Kyle, your favorite Star Trek is Enterprise.
Not my favorite. My favorite's TNG, but
okay.
I like Enterprise better than DS9 and Voyager. Enterprise is, and maybe it's just my affinity for anything that's got Enterprise in it. Like my favorite three are TNG, TOS, and Enterprise. And of the new CBS stuff, I'm really looking forward. Apparently, they're going to do a Christopher Pike, right? Looking forward to that more than I look forward to even Picard or Discovery. I just have an affinity for the Starship, but
absolutely right.
Starship with that name.
Yeah,
but I really like Enterprise, and I'm rewatching it right now, actually. And
really.
Right.
Yeah, and the affinity is not gone. Like I really enjoy it. Like I just got through with I'm in season 2 right now. I just got through with Catwalk, where they all hide in the catwalk while the storm goes by. I love that episode.
Oh yeah, that was a good episode.
This is perfect. I need to tell you that me and the wife, we were watching Enterprise and we stopped watching to watch Discovery so we could get caught up. And our very next episode is the Catwalk.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're
That's
right there with
at.
you. Yeah, it's
cool.
It's just me and the wife find Enterprise difficult, at least the first 2 seasons, because I know it gets better. I've seen it, I know it gets better. But the first 2 seasons are a little hard. They're not Babylon 5 season 1 hard though. We know that, right? We all know. But they're pretty rough. Yeah. So
I love them. I've been enjoying it. I just love the approach that they took, the newness of it, this concept of them being the first out there, and the way they approach those episodes of like the like, for example, another episode that gets mentioned in Sci-Fi, I think, is from the first season called Dear Doctor, where they come across that society that's on the verge of extinction. They have a pandemic that's running through the society, and it's
I wonder what that's like.
I can't relate.
And the doctor, Phlox, right? Phlox discovers that it's a genetic disease, but there's this other species that lives on the planet, right? That is subservient, right, to the main species. And but he discovers 2 things. A, he discovers actually how to cure the disease, and B, that this subservient race actually isn't inferior at all. And if they were just left to their own devices, they would evolve and be, they would become their own and are perfect. And so they're essentially enslaved at the behest of this other race that's now sick, right? And so he realizes that if he gives them the cure that he has discovered, then he will be essentially enslaving the other race, right? And this is where the Prime Directive exists. Right. And so he's in this ethical conundrum that is almost impossible, you have genocide versus enslavement. Right. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful, right. But it's also wonderful. It's this wonderful philosophical episode that really makes you think hard. And it's a precursor to the Prime Directive and that kind of stuff. I just love it. I love it. And I love the captain says, like, one day we're going to have a directive to guide us on this. I have to remember that, we're not out here playing God. That particular episode plays a big part in my Prime Directive lecture in Sci-Fi.
It sounds very similar to the Discovery episode with Saru going home.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I remember watching that episode and being so concerned because it was like, that is not, like, for some reason it felt like they broke character so much in terms of the hands-off approach. I know, isn't it that the Prime Directive wasn't established officially yet because Discovery was pre
they were still working on it,
right? But still, like, I was like, you can't do this.
Yeah. I mean, the Prime Directive, I love those episodes. To me, that's when Star Trek is at its finest, when it's really wrestling and with these really, really deep questions, and you realize we're gonna get this solved in an hour. Really? Okay, like buckle up, let's strap in and let's figure it out. But I love the idea of the Prime Directive. I think there should be a Prime Directive in dating. Do not interfere with a less evolved species. Just keep it moving.
Oh my gosh.
You know, I have to say, oh, let me do the thing here. I'm learning to work my thing. I have to say that I love and hate Discovery. There's parts about Discovery that I mean, but now we're getting into the wife and I have seen all of season 1, all of season 2, except the last 2 episodes, which is a 2-parter. So we haven't seen that now.
Okay. Good to know. That's good to know.
Yes, please, thank you. The wife, because she doesn't know, I'm sitting over there now. Again, Leighann knows I have some very deep issues with Discovery, but also have some wonderful things that I really like about it. Some of the characters are just wonderful. But there's other things that, because I grew up with Kirk and Spock and Pike and knew the story, and I've known that all my life, the history. Now we're getting into where Pike is. They're talking about the things that happened in the cage from the original series, and we're getting a look ahead at what's potentially going to happen. And then they show there's going to be a Star Trek series with Pike, and you know what that means? That's going to be Enterprise, baby. That's before Kirk's Star Trek. BC before Kirk, right? And I'm like, man, that's gonna be, so you know what we got to look forward to? We're going to see the old man doctor. After seeing this, the wife didn't understand why I'm sitting over there crying. I'm crying like a baby, a hungry, angry baby at the scene with Pike because he's in the thing. And I'm like, well, you don't know. You don't understand. Well, I tried to force her through the menagerie episode and I just couldn't get her all the way through it. Because you know it's old TO's the original series and she just couldn't. But man, so we're gonna see that old doctor in that show. Go back and watch that. He's got the comb over that starts way over here and comes all the way over here, and he's blonde. And and then his back over here is all combed forward with the doctor guy. It was really weird, and he's quite handsome looking. When he finally stopped doing that, I looked him up on the interwebs. Anyway, and then we're gonna see that guy. See, we've already seen number 1. We've seen her in Discovery. Yeah. Number 1 was played by Majel Barrett in The Cage. So we've already seen her. So that means we're also going to see probably going to see the old doctor guy.
The new old doctor.
The new old doctor guy who's going to be on or whoever he is. Whenever we see the Enterprise, I haven't seen the Enterprise, right? And that's what I was telling the wife. I'm afraid that whenever we watch the next 2 episodes, because I've seen some of the previews, there's going to be the Enterprise, the freaking Enterprise with Pike at the helm in this show. And I'm fixing to watch those episodes.
I am so happy for you. Yes.
Dr. Boyce is his name. Dr. Boyce is the doctor that you're looking for.
Oh, is that? Okay.
Honey, you're going to need a real fan. You're going to need the menopause fan. That's what you're going to need. You're going to need the Clutch the Pearls, Tennessee Williams sweet tea, and a fan. That's what you're going to need.
I tell you, because I am so ready. There was a question for Dr. Kyle. We enjoy the one of the things that Star Trek has is the philosophical questions. He is the guy. So, Dr. Kyle, have you ever played any of the things like the Knights of Old Republic or Mass Effect that also have a lot of philosophical choices that you can make? Have you played any of those? Not to deter from Star Trek. I know we're Trekkies, but
yeah, no. So while I've got the floor, I'm going to do. This is because I did this off air, but I have to show these off because we. Matches the necklace.
Nice.
And by the way, like I love the necklace, by the way, but you can mix universes. This is my
Star Wars top in.
Yeah, it's a lightsaber.
We are now entering the land of heresy.
And now we fight.
It is okay.
Totally kidding.
To the question about the games. Unfortunately, because of how busy I am, I do not have a lot of opportunity to play video games unless it's with some time with my son. And in that case, I'm playing Mario Kart or Smash Brothers or something like that. I don't get to big giant philosophical, like Knights of Old Republic or BioShock or Mass Effect or that kind of stuff. That said, I am currently in the middle of, and I have been for a while and will still be for a while because it's a giant project. I'm in the middle of editing Pelgrave's Handbook of Popular Culture as Philosophy. In the end, it will be more than 75 chapters, each fairly long. The idea is to treat, like I did in Sci-Fi, to treat not only science fiction but any kind of pop culture as philosophy, as something that's making philosophical argument. The basic five genres that we're covering are film, television, comedians, treating comedians as philosophers, graphic novels, and video games.
Okay.
And so in the works currently are a number of chapters on different video games. For example, just the other day, I did one on the puzzle game called The Witness. I just finished editing that chapter.
I love that game so much.
There will be a chapter on it. It is not published yet. I just went through the first draft and that kind of stuff, but it was in pretty good shape, so it should be out soon. But BioShock, Mass Effect, both of those are in the list of games that I want covered. I haven't thought about Knights of Old Republic, but it would be, if there's philosophical content there, that would be a good one. So I've got some other games they're in the lineup that are going to be written on. So unfortunately, I don't have more to say about it right now because I'm not informed about those games enough to comment on it right now. But like, that's in the works. Chapters on that, works on that are in the works. And if we were interested in talking about that more once those chapters are published, I'm sure I could get the authors of those chapters on here to talk about them if we wanted to.
Nice.
That would be
anyone
wonderful.
Doing anything with the Talos principle at all?
The Talos principle, no. I should write this down though. Let me open up my document.
You know, I'm writing something down too. You said I need to get somebody on the show who wrote a thing at the place with the stuff. I'm gonna get with Kyle.
Okay. So what is that a game, V? Is that a game that you're talking about?
If you like The Witness, you'll really like Talos. It's also a puzzle game. It's a little bit more spatial than logical. Okay. But it has this whole subplot where you are an android created by God, and you're constantly running into computers that are giving you philosophical questions to make you question whether the God exists and whether you are an android or if you have free will. And it's actually
nice.
It's really beautifully put together. The music is gorgeous. It's atmospheric as fuck. So I love it.
Can you spell it? Can you spell it for me?
Yeah, it's TALOS and then principle.
And I'm sorry, V, that's a computer game?
Yeah, it's a video game.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so good.
See, Chris knows I got left off at Pac-Man. That's so like, and I know people seem to derive so much pleasure and wow, such a learning opportunity from a video game. I'm like, I'm baffled.
Well, I don't play many at all. The Witness and Talos Principle are the two that I will always like, yes, sign me up. But they're a very specific kind of game.
Oh yeah.
So to add to that, when I looked a little bit closer, the Talos Principle is already on my list, and it is right under The Witness, which makes me believe that the author who wrote on The Witness, Luke Cuddy, probably is the one who suggested it to me, which means I could probably convince him to do one on the Talos Principle. Now that once The Witness is done, which is pretty close to being done, I will. I'm going to put Ask Luke right underneath it, and then Chris, Luke Cuddy is who you're going to ask me to have on the show later if we want to.
Okay, you read my brain.
Particular one anyway.
I lost my writing stick. I did it that fast. Oh, there it is. Okay, Carrie. Luke
Did you
Cuddy?
say your writing stick?
Yes. You know what I call a screwdriver? My screw stick.
Sonics?
Wow. Stick.
The screw stick.
Nice.
I was going to say sonic screwdriver, but clearly I'm wrong here.
No, if it's sonic, there's something wrong. Go to the doctor immediately. Louis, what? Louis, what? Sorry, Kyle. What was the name of the?
Oh, Luke Cuddy. Luke Cuddy.
Luke Cuddy. Okay, sorry. Got it. Thank you. I will hit you up for that.
Like I said, I just got through editing his chapter, and it was marvelous. I've not played Witness, but it does. I mean, I understand what it is now. Like, he does a wonderful job of, without spoiling any of the puzzles, explaining what it's doing and how it's articulating, doing a bit of philosophy and kind of understanding the world in a certain kind of way. It's good stuff.
Oh, so exciting.
That's one thing though. Would you, Leighann, show us your thing? We got to see his. You guys were comparing swag before the show started, but would you show us again your necklace for those who haven't seen it?
Oh, sure.
She rocks this. She also has, Dr. Kyle. She has got a mask, and the mask, if I remember correctly, it has the.
Yeah, well, I have my regular, like surgical mask, and then over that I put a black mask, and on the black mask is my Section 31 pin.
Nice.
Yeah, so she's got a little section.
And I gotta tell you, I made a run to the grocery store. I think it was Thursday. And somewhere around aisle 9, I pass a guy. He comes back and he goes, Star Trek, and I'm like, yes. And we have a 45-minute conversation.
Oh, nice.
About Star Trek, all incarnations of it. It transitions over to Mandalorian and then comes back, which I've never seen. And it was like, where did all these nerds come from?
They're finally feeling safe to come out now that there are not as many people outside.
I guess so. I guess so. This is a nerd's paradise. This is everything we warned you about in every movie.
Right.
Yeah, you wear your swag. If you wear your swag out, you have to expect those kinds of.
Yeah. I love it. I love. Usually, most conversations. Remember when we had public conversations with people normally without a mask? People would talk to me, and then they would stop and they do the head tilt. They go, "Is that?" Yes, it is. And Chris knows this. I hate to sound repetitive, but you guys haven't heard it. I used to fly quite a bit, and TSA agents always recognized it. Like right off the bat, as I'm walking through security, it'd be like, Captain. That was just so much fun. I don't know what it is about that population of people that, are maybe predisposed to be Star Trek fans or science fiction fans in general. I don't know. I mean, had I walked through with a lightsaber, I would have gotten a different type of attention, I'm sure.
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah, that, a batleth. Some things are hard to get through security.
I'm doing a poll on Facebook or on YouTube, because YouTube now has this channel thing. And the first poll I did was, which was better, Star Wars or Star Trek? Naturally,
man, come on.
Of course, naturally Star Wars is slaying. No, Star Trek is slaying Star Wars.
I was going to say, I am going to walk off this set.
Exactly.
She's
exactly.
out. They're out. Yeah. No. So right now, Star Trek is winning, and then I just now posted a new poll because it's a community tab. I just got recently access to the community tab, and I've just dropped it just before the show started. Which is your favorite Star Trek? Not counting the most recent two, Discovery or Picard. Not counting those two. Which are your? I'll let y'all know how that goes.
Oh yeah.
I'll put a link. So if anybody watching wants to vote, by the way, I only had 5 options, so I couldn't put the new shows. Which worked, finished, completed shows, which are your favorite kind of thing. So, yeah, they're bad people.
So I was going to add, Leighann, I had the opposite. I learned the opposite lesson that you did in regards to public. This was a while back, but when we first moved up here to Pennsylvania, I'm from Oklahoma. Moved to Pennsylvania, we took a trip to Philly just for fun, and we were going to go on a bus ride, and I needed something to protect my bald head from the sun. So I just bought a hat that was around, and it happened to be a Phillies hat, right? And then I am up here going grocery shopping, and I was going to wear a hat to the store, and that was the only hat I had. And so I put on the Phillies hat and went to the grocery store, and some random guy accosted me. He was a Phillies fan and talked to me about Phillies baseball for like 10 minutes. I had no idea what he was talking about at all. Right. But because I'd worn swag that I really wasn't qualified to wear, as it were, right? And I kind of like, I'm not wearing that hat out anymore. I had to get a different hat.
I do that in CA. That's not.
Yeah. I mean, it was a nice hat. So like,
that's funny. I'm from Pennsylvania originally. I grew up in Gettysburg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've been to many towns in Pennsylvania. Some nice shopping if you go to Lancaster. I used to be a mall girl.
Oh yeah, Lancaster malls are the bomb. And then of course you go to Hershey and everything smells like chocolate and it's amazing.
Well, that's not bad compared to Wisconsin, which smells like beer and cheese. Like, how do you guys do that?
I took a bunch of honor students to Gettysburg once. We toured the battlefield and all that kind of stuff. And I very proudly convinced them that ghosts did not exist on that trip.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
That were
your work here is done.
All into it or whatever, and
so much
over dinner I convinced them.
I've had so much fun with tourists because I worked in the tourist industry for a few years while I was there, and I was also watching Supernatural at the time. So you absorb a lot of the lingo about talking about ghosts. So with a full straight face, every time somebody would bring me like one of the little ghost hunting manuals, I'd be like, well, these are the things we actually have to do. You won't find these in here. And I've had people run out of the store in fear because I am convincing them that
man.
I had to do something with my day. It was very boring. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You know,
so I worked as a housekeeper at Farnsworth House Inn at one point, which is one of the most haunted inns in America, quote unquote. And everyone else who worked there believed in ghosts, except for me. And so if there was like one day where I was cleaning a room and the fan was making a weird noise because there was like a loose screw or something. So I went downstairs to management and I told them that the fan was making a strange noise. And before anything else, the first thing they asked me was, do you feel safe? Do you feel safe going back up there? Because it could be a ghost. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I just need someone to fix it. They're like,
you just need a screw stick.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that wasn't a hiring question and that you got the job. Do you believe in ghosts? No? Well, you can't hire you.
Oh, no, they would hire you so that they didn't have to clean the attic. I was the one who had to clean the very spooky attic. Because nobody else would go up there.
Because they believe.
Well, I have an attic here, and I don't go there because, you know, if I see a spider, which is not a ghost, is a real thing, I'm very afraid.
Yeah, it doesn't take a real ghost, does it?
No. 8 legs, I'm done. Like, I've never seen arachnophobia. That's how bad it is.
Oh, really?
Really, I won't do it. No.
That's bad.
Yeah, see, I have a feeling, though, if they would have done that quiz on V beforehand, she would have just pulled a Winston and said, if there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you want.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's how Chris got me.
Well, you know,
Kyle, I have to.
What?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, pardon me. Kyle, you were talking about convincing people out of the belief in ghosts or however you phrased it. But do you have a specific method or line you use or something? I have something specific I use when discussing the reality or nature of ghosts. What is yours?
I'm trying to remember exactly what I said to them. So it helped that I was dealing with honor students because I was able to kind of appeal to, you know, you ought to be smarter than that. And that had some sway. But in addition, like I often point out that the most famous ghost stories, like the Amityville Horror and that kind of stuff, are bunk and prove to be bunk, right? So anytime you look into a supposed ghost story or whatever, doing just like a modicum of research ends up debunking the whole thing, and you realize that it's not real. And then I also, one of the big things I do is emphasize how easily our senses and our perceptions are led astray. And expectation bias will make us see things that aren't actually there. And that's how a lot of ghost stories come about, is that people just are expecting to see certain things, and so they end up seeing them or think they see them or whatever. I can't remember exactly what I said to them, and it was like a half-hour conversation. It took a while, right? And then I also had the respect of one of their professors. It's really hard to do this with somebody who does not respect you at all, because they'll just dismiss you, well, it's just your opinion or whatever. So it's definitely difficult to do. For my regular students, like, it takes a whole semester to introduce them to the basics of critical thinking and to see exactly how our perceptions and memory lead us astray, et cetera, et cetera. But since I was dealing with honor students, I was able to do that in pretty short order. And a little fun little kind of a bit about it is, like, I explained how, even if you don't believe in them, if you're in a situation where you're kind of expected to see one, you still might see something there, just because you can't control how your perceptions present the world to you. Right. One of the ways I do this in class is show you optical illusions, where I will prove to you that two things are the same color, but you can't help but see them as different color or whatever, right? And so after dinner, when I convinced them all of this, there was actually construction coming out of the restaurant, and so we couldn't take our normal route to the hotel. We had to turn a different way, and we ended up driving right through, in pitch dark, the most haunted part of the Gettysburg battlefield, where all the stones are, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Right. And I had students who were like, yeah, I totally thought I saw something, but I realized that it's just me. It's not really actually there. Right. And so I was very proud of them. I was very like, good, right? You're seeing exactly, how this works. So anyway, that's a kind of a short answer to your question there, Chris.
Well, I have my own little thing about ghosts. Here's my thing about ghosts.
Yeah. So how do you do it?
Okay, let's just take the last few hundred years, like 1,000 years, 1,000 years. Hundreds of billions of people have died. I'm saying maybe hundreds of billions, but there's a lot of people. I mean, even if we're just talking tens of billions, it's still a lot of people. Now, if ghosts can affect things and talk to you and move your clothes or move things around or make noises, they'd be doing it all the damn time. There's so many ghosts everywhere all the time. You couldn't run a newscast without some newscaster's dead grandma ghost up there trying to straighten his tie. Oh, honey, look at that tie. You just can't go matting down his hair. You know what I mean? If it really happened, it would freaking be everywhere. You could not swing a dead cat, metaphorically speaking, without hitting a ghost.
No offense, baby. No offense.
No. I hope your cat's still alive.
Yeah, well, he sleeps kind of hard, so I check on him.
If you're petting a dead cat, this is the wrong show.
It sure is.
But yeah, that's my thinking on the ghosts.
Of course, what ghost enthusiasts will say is that most of them pass over, just some of them remain here, right? And that's how they'll get around. That's the ad hoc excuse for getting around. A very good objection that you've brought up here, right?
But even if it was a percentage of a percentage, it would still
no,
be...
you're right. No, you're still right about that. One of the pieces, and I don't remember if I used this with my students or not, with those honor students or not. One of the arguments that Ted Schick gives in his book, How to Think About Weird Things, which is a book that I use regularly in my logic class. I use it in my critical thinking class, my medical reasoning class, and I refer to it in the great courses and that kind of stuff. It's a really good book. In his section on ghosts, one of the things that he points out that's kind of a smoking gun is ghosts are real. What they're supposed to be is they're supposed to be disembodied persons. They're supposed to be souls, right? They're supposed to be non-material entities, right? If ghosts are real, where do they get their clothes? Because always when you talk about ghosts making appearances or ghosts appearing in photographs or people describing them, et cetera, they're always wearing clothes. Always.
They should be naked.
They're always wearing. But since we're born naked and in our natural state we are naked, souls should be naked. They should not have clothes.
Good point.
Right? Like if they're supposed to be made of different materials, like if they're supposed to be made of ectoplasm or lifetrons or whatever other kind of BS that people make up to, well then the clothes must be made of those too, but the clothes aren't made of that. Clothes don't have souls. Clothes do not, are not made of ectoplasm or whatever, right? And so the ghost theory, as it stands, that they're disembodied souls, cannot explain in any modicum at all why ghosts have souls. That is a completely unanswered question. But of course, the idea that ghosts are just projections of our imagination perfectly explains that. Of course, they're wearing clothes, because when we see people all the time, they're wearing clothes. So we imagine we see dead people, they're wearing clothes, right? The fact that they wear clothes is a direct testament that they are figments of our imagination, not actual real existence. If so, there you go.
What was your thoughts on that, Leighann? Hook us up.
Well, clearly the ghosts are choosing to wear clothes for our modesty, so they don't scare us any more than they have to.
That's a good point.
And clearly there's a ghost mall.
All the things we never considered.
I'm just saying, come on, you guys, expand your minds.
This is a perfect example. This is something I always point out to my students, that you can never disprove anything because you can always make up ad hoc excuses.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's on my LinkedIn resume.
I get paid extra for that.
I weave webs of bullshit. That is my title.
Kristen asks, what about ghosts of exotic dancers? I need to look for those ghosts. I do appreciate your thinking, Dr. Kyle. Ghosts should be naked, and I'm going to make a petition. We should all sign it.
Well, wait.
Force those
now,
bastards
hold on.
to be
if
naked.
We have ghosts of exotic dancers, they cannot be naked, because where would you put your dollars?
Well, in their G-strings, right? For ghosts.
G-string. We are smoking on fire this morning.
I know. I lost my coffee. I'm okay.
Kyle, I'm watching Voyager, and one of the episodes I recently saw was, and I don't know the title of this episode, but Tuvok is stranded on a planet and finds himself taking care of 3 children.
I remember that one.
It is hilarious. And of course, he's always pointing out how, they're not behaving like Vulcan children, and tries to teach them, how to sit still, how to focus, how to concentrate. But what really got me was when that little scene where he's talking about their fear. And the kid is like, I can't help but be afraid. He goes, you absolutely can. Yes, you can. And he talks him through it. And I'm a grown up going, okay, let me pause and write this down. With my fear, like you don't have enough evidence. Yes, it could be this, the Morlock could be the monster you're afraid of, but we don't have any evidence of that. Right. And that's what I love about Star Trek. They don't just leap to the first conclusion. They gather evidence. They explore different things. And it's just like, I actually believe watching Star Trek helps you think better.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I've talked about this with Chris or not, but if I can point to him, my camera's reversed. Idolizing Spock
yes.
as a small child had a direct influence on me and likely led to doing what I'm doing. It likely led to me being a philosopher. That his emphasis on logic and not letting your emotions control you, at least, right? I don't control emotions like a Vulcan, right? But not letting them control you and that kind of stuff had a huge influence on me. And in the Pelgrave series of Pop Culture and Philosophy, Massimo Pigliucci has already published an entire article on Spock and Stoicism and how Spock was intended to be a Stoic exemplar, but he's actually not quite a Stoic exemplar. So it explores what Stoicism is and how Spock is like it and how it's not, or whatever. But that article is already available. You can get that. That article exists.
So cool.
Well, you know, what do you guys, because we're just glancing off of Spock here, why don't we talk about Spock for just a minute? I love Zachary Quinto made a perfect Spock. I thought that was wonderful. Who's your favorite Spock actor? Or well, really what I'm getting to is, what do you think about Ethan Peck? For those who've seen
as Spock on Discovery.
Yeah. My only issue is that he's too pretty. For me, like I don't want to be attracted to Spock. Like,
oh wow, really?
I want to be able to not that Leonard Nimoy was not also attractive, or Zach Quinto, but like there's something where he looks too traditionally attractive to me. He doesn't look like somebody who is in any way different from just a hot human. So it's the acting is fine. I think he portrays Spock well. But it makes me feel weird to be like, ooh, Spock's hot.
I suspect we're gonna have a lot of them. And you know, you're kind of right. Normally they have a very distinctive, with even the Vulcans in Discovery. The haircuts are very distinctive. The way, I mean, even when you wouldn't think they would be that way, they're all the same, except for Spock, who's got the, forgive me for saying it, the fuckboy haircut, like you would see from the little Japanese kids, right? I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's exactly what you would see from that style of, and I mean, it does. Yes, it's hot. Ooh, you know, yeah. But it's not what I would expect, like you say, from my Spock.
I found, and I don't know if you're up to this yet. Did you see Picard?
No, I haven't watched Picard yet. I can just do this. I can just go.
No. I'm not going to ruin it, but I found a similarity between the prettiness of Spock, as you said, V, and the prettiness of the of the Romulan.
They look so similar.
So very similar.
Honestly,
I'm like, are they related?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, when does season 3 come out?
What are they called? The Sci-Fi.
The Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
When do they come out with season 3 of Discovery? Because now we got 2 more episodes, and then we move over to Picard. And we watch one season. So it's not soon.
It's not soon.
Okay, that's all.
Not soon enough.
No, right. Fall at the earliest, but I think they had to pause a lot of their production because of everything that's happening.
Because of the cooties.
Because of the cooties.
Yes, in the era of the great cooties. I didn't know cooties were real.
Oh yeah. It's actually it's a real thing as far as a term for body louses, but it's also there's also a colloquialism for anybody who is like that is dirty or lesser than. I mean, you know, like little kids. It's in the definition. It actually refers to little kids. Well,
yeah, I mean, I grew up. Cooties. You know, the childhood disease when I grew up was cooties, and it meant you were uncool.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
It wasn't until I'm actually, because I like history. I was researching something else. I guess it was World War I thing, and I'm like, cooties were a thing. We are such a weird culture. We take our most horrible things and then make them into some sort of children's game or story, like Ring Around the Rosie.
Yeah,
That's a whole study too. I mean, Dr. Kyle's got the philosophy in sci-fi, but you know, the children's stories that we have, a lot of them come from nightmarish tales.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. Like, thanks, Disney.
Yeah.
So I tried to look it up, Chris, and I could not find a release date for season 3.
Gotcha. So no time soon. That's all. That'll give us time to go through Picard because right.
Yeah.
Picard.
I want the Pike show first. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pike will be first. I don't know. I just know I saw the trailer for season 3 last year, the weekend of Comic-Con in New York in October.
So are we gonna?
So if there's a trailer for it already, then we're not going to see. We're season 3 before Pike.
Yeah. Are they going to burn us out now? They're going to have 3 running series. Am I wrong?
I mean, hey, it's a good way to go.
I'm all about
okay
it.
with it.
I love it.
Yeah, I think as long as they're not all coming out, like there was burnout, I think, when DS9 and Voyager were both airing at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. And so you had like two new episodes flying at you every week or whatever.
Right.
If they're going to stick with like, we're going to give you this series and that's it, and then we'll take a little break and then we'll give you another series and take, I don't think they're going to have the worry about burnout, especially with streaming and that kind of stuff where you don't have to, like, I think there was a problem with DS9 and Voyager being on at the same time when you had to be tuning in on to catch it because that becomes too cumbersome or too burdensome to keep up, right?
Yeah. I think that's why I missed so many episodes. Like I tuned into DS9 and I'm like, it was almost like watching the show for the first time because there were so many episodes that I've missed. And I'm finding that with Voyager as well. And then I believe in the same time period, throw in Babylon 5 and how can you keep up?
That's right.
Pre-streaming.
Yeah.
These kids today, they don't know what it's
like. They don't know.
No, they don't know what it's like. You're right.
I think it'll be fine as long as they all talk about, as long as they all approach different philosophical concepts, right? Like if we're having the same stories, talking about the same things in 3 different ways, that's going to get boring. But it seems like they're doing a good job of kind of separating out what each one is tackling.
Yeah. You know, if I may, I have a little bit of a, I don't know about the Picard series, and I suspect it will be this way too. But in the old shows, almost all of the old shows, it was always something like local right here is very dramatic. Oh my God, we've got to fix this right now, or the station will be destroyed, or the ship is going to be destroyed. But with Discovery, it's like, we've got to do this right now, or all of mankind everywhere will be destroyed. And then they up that the next game to every single life form in the entire universe will be destroyed. And then they up that even further by going, every life form in every galaxy that the mycelial network everywhere will be destroyed. It can't just be about a simple episode. And now we get, now I'm past the mycelial network stuff and I'm into the control. What's control going to do? Wipe out everybody everywhere. It's always got to be everybody everywhere. It can't be, oh my God, there's just one station where these little life forms are down there and the people on that station are accidentally killing the life forms. So we've got to go have a moral story about that.
Yeah.
That used to be wonderful Star Trek, but now it's got to be everything everywhere.
And we used to reserve the everything everywhere stuff for like the last episode of TNG, right? Like in the last episode of TNG, all of humanity is at stake, right? And that's fine. But see, this is, so I have 2 things I want to say here.
Okay.
One this is one of the arguments against the kind of approach that Discovery and Picard, and I presume Pike is going to take, where you don't have standalone episodes that tell separate stories, but you have season-long arcs that tell one big giant long story, right? Because when you do that, you kind of tend to go towards big giant all of humanity. Whereas if you take an Orwellian approach or a TOS approach or a TOS approach, where you have individual episodes that are, concentrated, then the stakes are smaller, but the stories are more digestible. And I think you actually get more philosophy done that way.
It was my opinion that those 3 and 4 and 5 episode arcs is part of what killed Enterprise. I was saying it when the show was coming out. I was like, this is done. It's not going to last. I mean, I was there saying it, and now.
Well, that's the Star Trek that had the most underwear sponsors.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
There is lots of
Star Trek brought to you by Hanes.
Yes.
Why are you in your underwear, Captain?
Again, why are you
on
underwear?
duty.
I know. You like fell out of a turbo lift and somehow you fell out of your clothes. What's going? Yahoshi had a transporter accident and went from being fully clothed and dirty to being mostly naked and just, smoking. Every episode,
And it wasn't distasteful. That it's bike shorts and a tank top, but it's like
that first episode, the very first episode with DePaul. Oh my goodness!
Oh, you need to do this every time you leave the ship now. Cool.
Yeah, but with the first one, normally Star Trek has a nipple rule. They threw that nipple rule out the window for the first episode of Discovery. So whenever they get in that little room with the little blue light, there's not a lot left to the imagination of Mr. Paul. That's the only time we see it.
You mean Enterprise? They threw it out with Enterprise.
Enterprise, yeah. What'd I say?
Yeah.
Discovery.
Oh, I'm a bad man.
Well, no, because it is a discovery, not the discovery.
We discovered her, that's for sure. We discovered it was cold in that room. That's what I discovered.
Oh my god.
Okay, so I have a second thing I wanted to say a while ago, and this relates to you talking about a while ago about your favorite Spock besides Leonard Nimoy.
Okay.
Which, by the way, I like Zachary Quinto just fine. The new Treks, the Kelvin timeline Treks are fun. They're just not philosophical, so they're not my kind of Trek. I have them. They're sitting over here somewhere, and I watch them. They're fun, but they're not. And Abrams has said himself that he wasn't into philosophy. He didn't like Star Trek that much when he was a kid because it was too philosophical for him. So when he made new Trek, it wasn't philosophical. Okay. Setting all that aside, do you guys know what Star Trek Continues is? Nobody knows. Okay, all right. I'm going to introduce you to something that is going to blow your mind. Okay. Star Trek Continues is a fan series that is made by fans for fans. It is not profit, so they were able to do it without any kind of copyright restrictions or anything like that. They are all available for free, ad-free on YouTube. And
really?
Yes. And it is, I believe, 10 or 11 episodes that are essentially structured as like if Star Trek TOS had a season 4, this is what it would have looked like. And they rebuilt the set, and it is immaculate. It is not campy. Well, it's campy in the same way that the old Trek was campy, but it looks exactly like the original set.
Really?
Wow.
And, the way that they shot it, it looks exactly like it has the same camera angles. Of course, they use the same music and that kind of stuff. And they went down. The hairstyles are all 60s hairstyles. Acting is as good as it was in TOS. It's not perfect or anything like that. I highly, highly recommend Star Trek Continues. Look it up on YouTube.
Do they still make them?
Has them in release order.
They don't still make them now? They don't still make them?
No, they are. As far as I know, there's not any others in production, but there's 11. There's enough to keep you busy for a while to go and watch them, and you'll probably want to go back and watch them again. In the very first scene, they introduce a holodeck, like there's a holodeck on TOS, but it does not become a recurring thing where it's annoying, like, oh, this is just TNG, whatever. It's just, it does not happen that often. They do introduce a counselor to the ship, and it's kind of a experimental kind of thing. Like ships have counselors, and so the Enterprise is one of the first ones to have it. And I love her. She is a marvelous counselor. It's a wonderful character. But the Spock on that show is pretty damn good.
Really?
The Kirk is as well, and they bring back some classic characters. They have some really actually big name actors, but not original Trek actors. They bring John DeLance, who plays Q, plays somebody else in one of the other episodes.
Really?
Colin Baker, who played the Sixth Doctor, is a world planetary leader on one episode. There's some pretty. Lou Ferrigno is one of the big giant green Orion traders in one of the episodes.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
That's perfect.
It is.
Yeah, the original Hulk. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So Star Trek Continues. Now let me clarify. There is another thing like this called Star Trek New Voyages and Star Trek Phase 2. It's a different set of people, different set that they made. That although the set there is equally good, but in my opinion, it's not as good. There are some good episodes. I just got through watching one about the Klingon Empire, and they had the old style Klingons and new style Klingons into the same thing or whatever. The Kirk in most of the New Voyages one is an Elvis impersonator in real life, and so he has like a haircut, so it's a little bit different, but he does a pretty good Kirk impression. It's pretty good. And the Spock on some of those episodes, they go through different actors. The Spock in some of the later episodes is pretty good. In Star Trek New Voyages, I think Star Trek New Voyages is worth a watch. They too are also available for free on YouTube.
Wow.
So if you want to. The first New Voyages is pretty rough. Like they hadn't got the camera angles down, the cinematography a little off, and it's a little rough, and it's the plot's a little rushed and that kind of stuff. And so just kind of be prepared for that kind of early on. They kind of settle in a little bit later. There's also a different Captain Kirk in some of the later episodes that looks more like Captain Kirk. Like he looks a lot like Captain Kirk. It's good. I don't think his acting is as good, but Star Trek Continues is the one that I recommend. And again, it's 11 episodes. They're for free. It doesn't cost you any damn thing except for the time. And I really like them. I have told the old head of my department's watching old TOS, and I've told him to, after he's done, to go through Star Trek Continues. And in my opinion, Star Trek Continues is better than TOS season 3. I think it's actually better than the third season.
Really?
Of the original.
Wow. Not hard.
I haven't seen this season, the original series. I've kind of threatened. Daniel Fisk Bennett also wants to mention he's sending me a Facebook link here for Axanar. For those of you, are you familiar with Axanar?
I do not know what Axanar is. Tell me.
The Star Trek Axanar. It's a movie. You can find it on the internet. I haven't seen it either, but I've heard about it. 21 minute short film is apparently it's another.
Right.
I think that's the one that has Walter Koenig in it.
Interesting.
And I think Paramount shut them down or something, or tried to shut them down. I'd have to learn more about it.
So in Star Trek New Voyages, they actually bring back some of the original actors. I won't spoil who and what and blah, blah, blah. But there are some of the original actors, TOS actors, that come back. That's not true for Continues. But I still think Continues is better. I don't think that makes New Voyages better. But anyway.
Well, we have a question from the chat here real quick. And that is, which of you... he said it was enough for a lawsuit. Yeah, true enough. They had to shut it down. I thought there was some kind of problems with Axanar. But the question was put forth as to which race would you want to be if you could choose to be from a race of the Star Trek universe? Would you prefer to be a Vulcan, a Romulan, Andorian, a galactic antenna?
Vulcan all the way for me.
Vulcan for you?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd go Romulan, honestly.
You'd be a Romulan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
Yeah, those ears.
Why V? Why?
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that they have a lot of the same qualities as Vulcans, but they're a little edgy and dangerous. They're like goth Vulcans. I like it.
Yes.
I'd have to see the new ones.
I'm torn. I mean, I've always wanted to be a Vulcan. I mean, naturally. Yeah, feelings. Ugh.
So Michael Burnham is perfect for you, huh?
Yeah, that's why I completely love her. I'm human and I'm raised by Vulcans. Who doesn't have that dream? Like, she is me. Oh my God, I am a cis hetero Vulcan woman. Like, that would be awesome. But I'm torn between that and being a Bajoran. Not the religiosity, not that, but like the Vulcan. I mean, the Bajoran women are pretty badass.
They really are.
That's true.
Yeah. And then what was Counselor Troy?
Beta Z.
Beta Z.
Yeah.
Betazoid, I guess. Betazoid.
Yeah, Beta Z is a pretty good choice.
You get to look human, but you get the cool eyes and you get to read people's brains. I mean,
if I could be a Vulcan Beta Z crossover,
there you go.
That would be interesting.
That would rock.
It would be.
That would be like oil and water, really.
It would be. That first date would be hot, though.
If you both survive.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's see. I really, now you got, if we can mix them up, I don't know. I really enjoy the blue guys. I really
the Andorians?
Yeah, I mean, there's just
pink skin.
Yeah, there's a hot-blooded coolness to these cold people. You know, I really enjoy Shran. The actor, of course, made the character.
Was great.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things I want to get to in Voyager. I want to get back to Shran. You know, you see him a little bit in the very beginning, and then he's gone for like the length of a Bible, and then finally they bring him back in, maybe season 2 or something. I don't know.
You mean Enterprise? Enterprise.
Yes,
Enterprise. Yeah.
Enterprise. I was like, I missed a character. Who's
No,
that?
Enterprise. You know, oddly enough, in Discovery, in the beginning of Discovery, they mention a ship called the Shran, which we presume it's a Federation ship called the Shran.
Interesting.
And it's named after him, I assume. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, because of course now it's down the road. That's one of the things. For those of you who don't know, I really enjoy going through the IMDb page trivia for each episode as I watch the episode, especially if I haven't seen it or if I've already seen the show. But go through. I learned so many different things about actors who have been there, and it makes it amazing. I love it.
Yeah. The Andorians don't make a really big splash. You don't get to see them much after Enterprise.
No.
Yeah.
And they were really, they had such a dynamic character, the way they lived in their world and stuff.
Yeah. And those women were fierce too. If I remember that storyline, is it women who initiate the mating or the dating or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
There was also, what was it? Oh, the Orions. Remember the Orions? Everybody, they call them Orion slave girls, but we learn really later on that the slave is actually in control and the slave masters are really at the control of the slave women in the Orion society. You know, I thought that was a really cool thing.
Yes, this is the episode in continues where Lou Ferrigno plays an Orion slave trader. There's also a green slave woman, and there's a dynamic there, and they address that issue and that kind of stuff. And it's an interesting issue. Yeah. Like in that particular episode, because there's a green slave woman, there's a little bit of the Enterprise underwear stuff going on. But it's not ridiculous. Or
personally like those things.
I'm just saying the original TOS one.
Enterprise didn't really need to do that, was all. I mean, it was a great call to the nerds, though. You know, it was like nerds. You know, I mean, yeah. So a Vulcan, like her. I mean, she was smoking, and then with the ears, I love the ears. So I can't say I didn't like it. I'm just saying it just kind of.
And you know what? There seems to be a running ear theme. Can they not? And I think it was Tuvok who said it that their ears don't make them hear better. They don't hear better than humans. Is that true?
Interesting, because I was looking at plastic surgery to make pointed ears, because at one point in my life I was like, that would be really cool to actually have pointed ears.
You could either
and
be
I
a
looked into it, and apparently some people said that it does help them hear music better, or like music has a different experience because of the way that the sound is caught in the ear, and then it has more surface area or something. But so there is some difference, but I don't know. Yeah,
if Tuvok says that in Voyager, there's definitely a canon consistency issue, because I know I just watched this episode in Enterprise where T'Pol says that Vulcans have sensitive hearing.
That's right. There are a couple of episodes where she's having a hard time. Because the things are too loud. Yeah.
Yeah, so there might be an inconsistency. Maybe what Tuvok meant is the pointedness in their ears is not what makes them hear better, right? Like
perhaps.
The ears is
or
just
he's just like,
aesthetic.
guys, stop asking me to eavesdrop for you. I do not hear better. Stop asking me.
Oh, okay. So then that's not.
Yeah, it was the episode with the kids, and it's very possible he was just frazzled. Leave me alone.
There's
just canon incontinuity. There's just, you know.
Well, there's also a question about the Organians. Do any of y'all remember the Organians? Oh, wait, you know what? Before we go too far.
Organians.
Orgasmians?
Where were they?
But with V, I gotta say, with the pointed ears, you could be either a Vulcan or you could be an elf at parties. I mean, there was just no end.
There is no end to it.
To the beauty.
Honestly,
I finally broke down and bought mine last Dragon Con. I
want something, because they're already a little bit pointy. But
yeah.
Oh, I see that. Yes.
Exactly.
No, but when what's her name? Who's the character? I'm gonna kick myself for not remembering her name.
Cass.
She dies in the first season of TNG.
Oh, Tasha Yar.
Tasha Yar, yeah.
Tasha Yar. So I've had many people like reach out to me like, "You look like Tasha Yar." And then when she became a Romulan later on, and like came back, and her daughter was Romulan, I was like, "That's me. I've decided that is my character."
Yes.
Yeah, but
I actually have to jump off. I've got some other stuff that I need to set up for. But this was so amazing, you guys.
Wonderful. No, we did the hour. You know, you stuck for the hour, so I mean, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. I'm not scared. You guys are ready to? Are you ready to be done?
I don't want to interrupt your guys' conversation.
Well, the only thing I could think that we could really continue to do, I mean, would be compare with for those who haven't seen the swag between the two of them. I think they've already seen all of Dr. Kyle's.
Yes, let's do a swag off. We'll let V go.
We'll let V go. Thank you, V.
Yes,
and
hi, V. Thank you so much.
This was so awesome. Thank you, you guys. Great way to start, start the day. Okay, bye.
Bye.
So I will, while y'all talk about that, I will fix the thing here.
Okay, so Leighann, you asked about who the Organians are.
Yes.
So I will refresh your memory. You will remember this episode. There is an episode of TOS where the Federation meets the Klingons on a planet, and the Klingons are there first. They basically kind of like enslaved this very kind of primitive race. They look like a really primitive race, and they've taken them over, whatever. And they're like, you know, they're disobeying, so kill 50 of them or whatever, and they're killing them or whatever. And Kirk's like, they've killed 50 of your people, and the guy's like, nobody's died. It's perfectly fine. Everything's, and there's like, Kirk can't understand. And in the end, it turns out that these Organians are not primitive human-like creatures at all. They are just taking on that appearance for the sake of the Klingons and the humans. And they are actually these highly, highly advanced kind of like pure energy creatures. And so as the Federation and the Klingons are about to go at each other, the Organians just kind of will it, and all of their controls get hot, and they can't operate their ships anymore, and they can't fight their war, right? And the Organians basically say like, nope, we're done. Like you are done with this. This is not going to happen on our watch. You have never had control of us, et cetera, et cetera. And they basically force the Klingons and the Federation to have a peace or whatever. And there's this line at the end where Spock says something like, we are probably they are to us what we are to them what ants are to us. They are just so far beyond this. And in one of the, I think it's this. So in Star Trek Voyages, in this one of these episodes I just watched, there's this big like hour and a half long movie basically about the Federation and the Klingons and yada yada. And this is the one where you see classic Klingons and new Klingons together, et cetera, et cetera. And I think one of the setups for that is that the Organians have disappeared. They're no longer around, and so they're not kind of there to enforce the treaty between the Klingons and the Federation. And so it's about to break out, and that episode's about that war. I'm not trying to prevent that war. But yeah, that's the Organians. I could probably picture. Does that ring a bell at all? Do you remember that episode at all?
I actually don't.
I don't either. I was distracted doing the thing too, but at least you got to their question about the thing for the Organian. Yeah, because so somebody Organian, I guess that would be a good way to go if you were to choose which one.
Yes, an Organian would be a really good. Yes, because you would be awesome.
Not species 8 whatever. I always get the number wrong. 8-5 something 9. I don't know. It's the species that lives in between dimensions and is very powerful.
8472.
Yeah, I
the
think
Traveler. You're talking about the Traveler.
What show? What show are we talking about? Voyager?
I think it's from Voyager.
It's the only one they refer to as a species on the regular, right? Species 8472. They look like big ants.
Yeah, they look like big bugs. Yeah,
big bugs. No offense, brain bug. No offense.
Yeah, no offense at all. You know, and of course I find that terrifying. I'm also the Organian that puts me in mind of that episode of TNG where the guy, they've come across this planet and it's an old guy and his wife and they just want to be left alone, and you find out that the Husnox
are attacking them, and he's
right.
a
yeah,
right. And I loved that episode.
Yes, I love that episode, and he is very Organian like.
Yes.
He's an Organian, but he is very Organian like. That episode is also like the TOS episode where Requiem for Methuselah, where they come across the guy that's lived for thousands and thousands of years, and it turned out that he was Bach, and he was Picasso, and he was Methuselah. He was the guy in the Bible that lives like for 1,000 years, whatever his name is. That's Methuselah, right? Yeah. Anyway, but he's been around for thousands and thousands of years. He realized that he couldn't die or whatever. So it's very much like that one. And then there's also another one where they run across the Liberace type character that has all those powers, and he turns out to be a small child or whatever. But yeah. So
I feel like I need to rewatch original series. It's just sometimes so painful, especially when you have a head full of Next Gen and Voyager and DS9, and then you throw in Discovery, and it's so hard.
It's so hard and campy, but there are some that are so worth it. There are some.
I know. I mean, I grew up on it.
Yeah, some of them I can't watch, like the Children Shall Lead or whatever. I can't watch that one. I can't do it.
Which one?
But others I still enjoy. The Children Shall Lead with the
bonk
like
on the head.
Yeah. Oh, the Grupp episode. Oh,
yes. Yeah. No, not the Grupps, not the Grupps. That is
bonk on the head.
Yeah, that's bonk on the head and Miri and that kind of stuff. I can understand not liking that one. That's not the one I'm talking about. There's one in the 3rd season where they discover these kids and they have this power to they can make things happen, and they do this to make it happen. And it turns out there's this weird grandfatherly thing that's in charge of them, and which it's just a.
Somebody just sent me a clip of that. They were like, "Oh, Leighann, I know you'd like this. It's too political for me." And I'm like, "How is this political?" People aren't saying.
Yeah,
I have a hard time with the kid. Episode.
Hey, we have a comment real quick that may be pertinent to what we were talking about. It is from Stanley Halbert. Hello, Stanley. First time I've seen you there. Nice to have you. Stanley says, I believe that the Organians actually set up the neutral zone.
Oh, that could be. That totally could be. And that would go with the episode I was watching from New Voyages, that when they're gone, then basically that kind of disappears or whatever.
See. Yeah, it makes sense, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, carry on. I just wanted to catch y'all on that. All right. So, and this is another good point by Tons of Mice here. Where does the Squire of Gothos fit in?
We were just talking about that while you had walked out. The Squire of Gothos is the Liberace type of character.
Absolutely.
That plays the organ or whatever. He's got all these powers or whatever.
Yes.
And
played by the same actor who played the Klingon Kor or Koloff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And they think he's this big, powerful, whatever, and then it turns out he's just a kid, right? He's this child. He's this kind of this misbehaving child, essentially, of a really powerful race, right? So I mean, there are a lot of these kind of. There's the Organians. There's Q. There's the guy on the planet that was attacked by the Husnock, right? Mm-hmm. There's the Squire of Gothos. There's a lot of these kind of nearly omnipotent creatures that roam around the Star Trek universe, right? So, and
then there's temporary omnipotence. I believe that was Next Generation with Lieutenant Barclay, where he, for half an hour, his brain expanded.
He was
right. Yeah. I love that episode.
He was really bright.
I love his character.
Me too.
I love his character. I love those storylines of not everybody's senior management perfect.
Yeah, yes. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I liked Tilly in the Star Trek Discovery. I kind of really there are aspects of Tilly's character I don't like, in the fact that she's like everywhere and she's this expert in everything. She's just blah 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 blah. I don't want to go there. William Campbell was the actor who played Koloff and the Squire of Gothos. Yeah,
right.
And then of course, for those who didn't know, we talked about this last time. Oh man, what was his name? He played Kor. But he also played Baltar in the original Battlestar Galactica. Our people will find John Calicos.
I love those crossovers when you catch them. It's like, hey, I know you.
Well, that all three of those Klingon actors played the Klingon actors in the original series, and then went on 27, 30 years later to play their characters again in Deep Space Nine.
I love it.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
That. Oh, you didn't know that, Dr. Kyle?
No, I did not.
All the Klingons
I know they borrow a lot of actors and that kind of stuff. But I also have I've never been diagnosed with it, but I know that I have some slight variety of face blindness. This is something I've talked about in some of my neuroscience classes that I teach philosophy of mind. We talk about neuroscience and read Oliver Sacks talks about face blindness and that kind of stuff. All of the time, I think two different actors are the same person.
Really?
All of the time. And I will be, and I've never learned my lesson. I will continually like challenge my wife and go, no, that person that's playing that's the same person that played that. She's like, no, it's not. I was like, oh, come on. No, you're right. I'm an idiot, right? Like every time. I thought I'd learned my lesson. And I just did it again the other day with some Star Wars actors. So I will not be confident in thinking that I'm the same person or whatever.
Well, do you remember the DX9 version of Trouble of Tribbles? Where they went back in time? Okay. Yeah. The actor who played the bad Klingon, the traitor who was pretending to be, that same actor again came back 30 years later and played himself in this show. I mean, that was all. I think there was 4 different actors who played Klingons. Wow. Michael Ansenya and Sonia and Michael. Damn it, he was married to I Dream of Jeannie, Barbara. Okay. He came back as one of the Klingons. He was in the original show and came back. And then the other 2 we've already talked to. And then there was also Koloff and you know what I mean? All those people came back years later and filled out their roles. Then they all died. Bad connection. So, you got some swag behind you. I see there's an Enterprise and a Spock. Let me look over.
Your background is wonderfully delicious for a sci-fi fan.
So I'll tell you about these guys, right? I can't point. All right, I'll tell you about these. Right, they are part of an entire collection. Let me get you Spock here.
Aww.
He is part of an entire collection of 8 that is sitting back here.
They're furry. They're soft.
They're soft. They're plush. They're knit. They're handmade knit. So this is individual. No other one exactly like it anywhere. Okay. And when my son was born, I decided I wanted to make him a mobile for his room. And so I made one, and I made it 3-tiered. I used some like sewing hoops or whatever for crocheting from Leighan's, whatever that place is called. And I made 3 tiers, and the top tier of it was TOS. And so I put the Enterprise in the middle, that plush, this is a plush Enterprise, right? The plush Enterprise in the middle, and I had the entire crew all the way around it. In the second tier was a plush Falcon and Chewbacca and Han Solo and Luke and Leia. I have them over there. And then the final layer, let me get them. Let me get them.
I'm loving this.
Yeah. I know, he's wonderful. Love it every time he's on the show.
My nerd street cred just took a dip because I don't have this.
Mine too, yeah.
The final layer was a TARDIS that lights up, and it was surrounded by my doctor, Matt,
nice.
My favorite companion, Amy Pons, Roy, and River.
River song.
Hey,
no spoilers.
I got something to show you here.
It was a three layered mobile that was in my 1-year-old's room that I put on a disco ball spinner, and I powered it, and so it just went around all the time. It was in there for like 3 years. Now he's 6. He's a little bit old for it, so I had to take it down. But I did not let the swag go to waste.
Oh no!
Put a couple of them up here when I'm doing the.
That is sci-fi parenting.
It is.
Everybody.
It is. Hey, Kyle. So you're knitted, right?
Oh.
Okay, and it's got the
what
tag.
Is that? Is that plastic? What is that?
It is. It's hard plastic. Like
cool.
Like they were 3D printed, but they look like little fuzzy dolls.
Oh, they're 3D printed. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, complete with the tag, and this tag is just like rubber instead of cloth. And so whenever I saw yours, I was like, man, does he have the same thing as little Kirk with a little gun and then a little Spock there?
Angry Spock.
Kind of looks just like yours, except for mine's not a real plushie. It's a little hard guy. We've added them to the permanent. They got a permanent seat in my studio back there.
I don't have any of that stuff like that. Well, I mean, people give me things. So no, because I don't have any original series anything, but somebody gave me a Guinan doll a couple of years ago. Cool. Yeah, so I've in box. I did not take her out of the box because like Big Bang Theory terrified me.
Mm-hmm.
Never take it out of the box. I have that. I have some figures from Black Panther. I have Nakia and another one. I can't remember which one I have. And then I have some of when Star Trek came out, I'm trying to remember. It was the reboot where they were fighting the Romulans and they introduced red matter, which drove me crazy.
Oh yeah. Star Trek 2009, the new movies.
Right. Burger King had glasses.
I have those glasses. I have them in my office at King's. They're at my office at King's, but I have those.
Yes, I have those still in box.
Oh, wow.
Oh, do you
See,
really?
I unbox my stuff because I never intend to resell it, and it's a bin that usually doesn't preserve its value anyway, so I want it to be out. I want for myself to enjoy it, and so I just like I'm also an organization freak, so I like having things, in order. Like I have a wand. The wand is out of the box because you never know when you might need to conjure. And everybody's like, "Why do you wear the necklace?" I'm like, "It was a gift." They're like, "What if you lose it?" Then I'll be very sad, but also grateful for the time that I had it. I do believe, like you, things are to be enjoyed. Yep.
Use the good china.
Yep. That's why I have so this is not the only nerdy tie pin I have. I have two other lightsabers that are replicas of Darth Vader's and Luke Skywalker's. I have a replica of the Shards of Narsil. I have a replica of Sting. I have a replica of the Sword of Zelda. I like to have that kind of swag on me whenever I'm teaching and that kind of stuff. For the occasional person, the student that notices it and that kind of stuff. But,
it's not for everybody. Not everybody knows, but for the ones who do.
Who know the secret handshake. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. When you can throw up one of these and keep it moving,
that's right.
That's social distancing right there, everybody. That's how we say
That's right. Its own form of exactly correct. Hey, Doc. One of the people in the chat has asked about, since you're a Doctor Who guy, the episode Blink.
Yes.
That ring a bell for y'all?
I've never seen the intro episode. That's how I got brought in.
Okay, so I got two things to add to this.
Okay.
First of all, so for the person who's asking about Blink, where's the episode list? Lecture 8 in Sci-Fi, Doctor Who and the Paradoxes of Time Travel. Blink is the episode I asked students, as it were, to watch for that episode. And in that episode, God, I wish I could share my screen. In that episode, I actually start that episode talking to myself on a laptop, like the Doctor talks to, like Sally Sparrow talks to the Doctor. And I actually am able to the dialogue. I talk to myself and it knows what I'm going to say in the same way that it does in the episode. And it makes sense in one way. And then we return to it at the end of the episode. And I have different dialogue that goes with the same video the second time. We pulled off really the Sci-Fi course is lots and lots of fun. That is one of my favorite episodes. And I'll give it away because also people don't often notice this. The very next lecture in that uses the TNG episode Parallels, where Worf
fractures the
universes, right? And so that episode's about whether there are alternate universes and we live in those universes, right? So are there mirror universes? And for all 24 lectures of that of Sci-Fi, for all 24 lectures, I teach it wearing a vest and a tie and a full beard. Except for that one episode on parallel universes. And what we did was we waited to film it last. And before we filmed it, I shaved off the beard down to a goatee. We completely changed the set. I changed all the swag that was behind me for it. I didn't wear a vest. I wore it. I didn't wear a pocket watch. I did all of these different things or whatever to make it look like I was in a parallel universe, and then didn't say anything about it. Just gave the lecture like normal. Well, I wonder if anyone will notice or whatever, but it's as if it's an alternate version of me from a different universe giving the lecture on alternate universes.
Bravo.
It's lots of stinking fun. It's lots and lots of fun.
Bravo.
So
I did not watch, and I got a lot of flack for this from people who know how much I love sci-fi, that I was not watching Doctor Who. People like, how are you not watching Doctor Who? But at that point, it had become so large. Where do you jump in? I wasn't jumping in on the plunger episodes. It just felt too cheesy for me. And so somebody suggested, they said season 3 or of the reboot, David Tennant, the Blink episode. which is an odd, when you think about it, an odd episode to start with, because he's not actually in it that much.
Yes.
But man, it was like a Doctor Who meets Twilight Zone a little bit. You know, my contact lenses got so dry because I wasn't blinking.
Really?
But oh man, it's so good. That is one of the episodes that every time I watch it, it still makes me cry.
Really?
Yes. You know, because the hospital bed episode, my heart's broke. It's like my hands. When did I get old man hands? And it's like the tears just start falling. I'm a mess.
So I have to add that this, I love hearing this. Okay, so I wrote an article for Psychology Today for my pop culture blog on what order to watch the Star Wars episodes in.
Okay.
And the correct answer is 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6, and then you go on. Unless you're in one first, and then episode 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay. Anyway, after I wrote that, I had other people asking me like, well, then how should you do Doctor Who? This is around the 50th anniversary, because the 50th anniversary involves multiple doctors, and one travels back and becomes the Eccleston Doctor, et cetera, et cetera. And so I constructed a new watching episode order for Doctor Who. And what I suggested is you come to know the mystery of who the Doctor is by starting with Blink, because the Doctor is barely in it. And it basically is a story of how Sally comes to understand who the Doctor is, right? And it kind of builds a mystery about him and who he is and how fantastic he is, or whatever. Right? And so you watch Blink first, and you get to like know what the concept of the Doctor is, and he looks like David Tennant, et cetera. But then you go to Matt Smith, because when they started with Matt Smith, that's when it started entering to America. They kind of did a reboot there as well. And so start with Matt Smith and and Amy and all that, and you run through and you go through and you follow that Doctor and fall in love with them, et cetera, and go up until the 50th anniversary special, where in that episode you will see the David Tennant Doctor again, and that will be the only the second time that you right, but you'll get this wonderful kind of more grandiose introduction into the David Tennant Doctor, right, in the 50th anniversary special. And of course that also involves the War Doctor, right, who was played by John Hurt, right, John Hurt's War Doctor, right. And so what you do is, instead of finishing Matt Smith out, you switch to following the War Doctor, and as he travels back in time to become the Eccleston Doctor, you go back and you start there and start at the beginning there. And Eccleston has a season, then he turns into Tennant, and you keep going until you bump up to Matt Smith again. And then you go to the 50th anniversary again, because it gives you new context and a new understanding for that 50th anniversary special. And then you follow it out, and then you go to you go to the rest. You go to the 13th, and you go to the current Doctor.
I love it. I have no way of knowing or proving this, but it is very likely that the person who recommended that I start with Blink read your article. So we have 6 degrees of nerdy separation.
I've heard something similar.
I have absolutely no proof that this happened. I don't know when you wrote the article, but I'm going to live on that for a little while.
So the article that I have is on Star Trek, not Doctor Who. But I've made the suggestion about this watching order numerous different places.
All right, so you put it out in the universe. Somebody heard you and whispered in my ear.
There you go.
I think that's entirely possible.
Well, see, I've heard something like that too, because I loved Doctor Who as a young person. I think my wife and I would probably enjoy it as we continue on our sci-fi journey. But where to start, And I've heard this thing. I think it was you telling me, start here, watch this way, go back, watch this way here, go that. And so whenever we're ready, me and the wife, I'm actually going to come seek you out or seek out somebody, and I'm going to, because I want to watch it in the right order. I started with remember when they started out with the 10th Doctor? What was it? It was Eccleston. Yeah.
Eccleston. He's the 9th Doctor.
Ninth. Yeah. Okay. So I started with him, and he goes one season. And I watched that one season, part of it, and then I was done. I never followed through.
I started with Blink, and then I just kept going. Got to Matt Smith. Matt Smith, got discouraged, and somebody mentioned that there was somebody before Tennant. I'm like, there was? Like, I had he was a secret. Like, nobody talked about him. He's like the stepchild of Doctor Who's. So I went back, and I loved he's delightfully dark.
Yes.
Which is a very different Doctor than the upbeatness. Is that a word? The upbeat of Doctor of David Tennant and Matt Smith. He wasn't quirky. At all.
Yeah, no, he's not quirky at all. I love them all. I think that they're all wonderful in their own way. Again, I probably like Matt Smith just because I like Amy so much. Eccleston has got your perfectly accurate description of him as being a dark and wonderful. But Tennant is wonderful in his own ways, and they're all reflecting previous Doctors that came before them in certain kinds of ways. Despite the fact that I like Matt Smith so much, I think that the third season of Doctor Who, which is Tennant's second season, and that's the one with Blink, but it's also the one with the stopwatch. It's the one with the ending with the stopwatch. That it might be the best season of Sci-Fi of anything ever. That third season of rebooted Doctor Who.
Is the family in that episode in that season?
The family?
Yeah.
Yeah, the bloodline, the
one where
the Doctor's he's hiding out.
He's hiding.
Yes. That's in that season.
Oh, I love that. And he keeps saying it, like he keeps saying, you don't want me to, you don't really want me to fix this. You please don't do this. But and then when you see him, when you understand the power of the Doctor, it's like when you get on your parents' last nerve and your parent has warned you, you don't want me to come for you. You do not want me to come, and you don't listen. You don't understand because your parents always been sweet and nice, and you piss off the nice one. And I feel like that's what happens. And those punishments were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a question.
The girl with the mirror. Somebody is outside of time. It's like, wow. It's nice to be happy-go-lucky.
This is one of the reasons I think you should watch it in the order that I suggested, because if you go straight from Blink, and then that episode's only like a few away from Blink, so you just got introduced to it, you don't fully understand who the Doctor is.
No,
right?
I guess it didn't.
But if you start with Blink and then go through Matt Smith and then go back to Eccleston and follow through, then you go through Blink again, by the time that you get to that episode, you really understand who the Doctor is. And so you're ultimately confused about why he is the way he is, like why does he not know who he is, et cetera, et cetera. And you know the shit's going to go down whenever he is, right? Like,
I've left Doctor Who because a lot of it did get confusing for me. Like, I didn't understand who the bald guy was. Well, first of all, we have an angry Scottish guy who I can't understand him for like the first half of the season. Garibaldi. Am I saying his last name right?
Yeah, Capaldi.
Thank you. I'm like, what? What is happening? What? Who's this? Who's the bald little guy? What? And then I just think it kept thinking it'll get better, and it didn't. And I'm like, I'm just holding out for the new Doctor, and then she shows up, and I know I'm really not a good feminist because I'm not enjoying her at all. Mm-hmm. I keep falling asleep.
Well, there's real quick. There's a question from the chat. From Kristen. She says she hasn't seen the Blink episode, but it sounds similar to Click. Have you seen Click, the movie with the Adam Sandler movie?
No,
either. I haven't heard of it either. So okay, sorry, Kristen.
Let me look it up.
I love time travel stuff. Like one of my and I like when it's not stereotypical time travel. I like when time fights back. Like that's one of the reasons why I love Stephen King's 11/22/63. I'm not a JFK conspiracy person, but the concept of the book is what if you could go back and stop the assassination? Would you? Oh, yeah. The real question is, could you? Stephen King makes time a character, and time fights back. Time doesn't like to be changed. And so he has to reset a number of times. And every time the main character comes back, he's older. Like if he spent 3 years in the past, he's aged. And so that's why it gets harder and harder, because he keeps getting older and older to go back and fight.
You really need to get my sci-fi course because I talk about these different theories of time travel, and there's essentially two ways to make sense of time travel that's logically coherent, and one is the branching universe version, and the other one is Lewisian preterentism. Essentially, it means that if you do go back and try to prevent it, you will not be able to.
Right. Hey, Doc.
To change the past. But.
Real quick that you mentioned that, we had somebody in the chat earlier say, it was JJ Delangel said, sure wishes they were one of your students. They
Well,
might
come to
not
King's.
know. They might not know that they can be through the great courses. Do you want to plug your
Yes.
courses real quick?
Yeah, so like, or you could enroll in King's College. That would be great. Come to King's and you can have me in class.
Or
But
you can do that. Yeah.
apart from that, they might not have been here, but like I have 3 courses with the great courses: Big Questions of Philosophy, Sci-Fi, Science Fiction is Philosophy, and then Exploring Metaphysics, which I don't. Oh no, I have one right here. There's Exploring Metaphysics right there. So you can get those. Those are available on Great Courses. Those are available on Audible. They're available on the Great Courses app, Great Courses Plus. And it is those are the classes I teach at King. So if you want to see what it's like to be my student,
There you go.
I love it. I love it.
So-
did you ever see Looper, the Bruce Willis time travel movie?
yes, I did, and it's
One of my favorites.
yeah, it's I'm trying to think of it's been a long time since I've seen it though, so I'm trying to exactly.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry. I
think-
didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh no. But I think that's a little bit like Click. So somebody mentioned Click a while ago.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
It's more about kind of reversing time and repeating it and trying again, right? Like
Okay.
you can rewind and try again, right? And that's not quite what Blink is, because in Blink you can't change the past.
No.
The fact that Sally Sparrow's friend, I forget what her name is, traveled back into the past and then got trapped there, and like that was a fact of the past before it happened, and like
Right.
rewinding and trying again. And so Blink actually, and this is why I use Blink in my lecture on time travel in the Sci-Fi course, is because it endorses this Lewisian predestination, preterentism kind of view, where you could try to change the past if you want to, but you will only end up causing it. That the past cannot be. And that's really my favorite way to tell a logically consistent time travel story, is in that way, that anything you try to do to change the past will just end up causing it. But that's different than like the Looper idea or the Click.
Oh yeah, Looper. They're
You can rewind
monetizing
and
it. They're
change.
using it to commit crime and murder. I liked it because he meets himself. His younger self meets his older self, and they are both disgusted with each other.
That's awesome. I
They
love time
argue.
travel stories. I love
do
time
too.
travel stories. And when they do that kind of stuff where you get to meet yourself, I just love it. It's so good.
Dead Again, a very old movie now. Dead Again with the British actors that were married together at one time. I'm blanking on their names. But Dead Again is again, they're ghosts. It's time travel. It's it's so delightful. Because a murder is committed, they come back, and they don't necessarily come back as who you think they're supposed to.
I think it's Kyle. Kyle, we're getting suddenly started getting kind of an echo from you and a squeal.
Oh, maybe I'm being too loud.
No, I'm not sure. It's
Here it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I looked it up. I'm embarrassed. I probably haven't had enough coffee, and I forgot their names. Kenneth Branagh is in it. Emma Thompson, Andy Garcia, Robin Williams. I'm trying to. What was 1991?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I can't believe I have to now, say that that's an old movie. I'm struggling with the aging thing. Like, how is that old? But I guess it is.
The older I get, the harder I believe, the harder it is for me to believe how fast getting old got me. Yeah. So thank you, Dr.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I stepped on a banana peel in the early 2000s and ended up here.
Yeah. I don't know if I didn't do a very good introduction. Dr. Miss Leighann is a stand-up comedian. She's been doing stand-up comedy since the 90s on stage. She's worked with all manner of folk. I get awed just by every time I was telling the wife, can you believe we got this lady on my show? All the time we do that. When me and her, we like look at each other and go, Leighann Lord. Yeah. So
Leighann, where can I see your stuff? Where can I see your stuff?
Oh gosh. My YouTube channel is Leighann Lord Comedy.
Okay.
I got links below.
Yes, the links are in the chat. But my website is veryfunnylady.com.
Okay.
And that's the portal to all things me. But I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Pinterest for no reason at all.
She's on Facebook. Pinterest, yeah, Pinterest, me too. Hey, yeah, Dr. Kyle, did you see the commercial I made for the show?
For this particular one?
Yeah.
The little video.
Tomorrow on the Daily Atheist, Dr. Kyle is going to join us for. Did you see those? I make those little.
I don't think so. I don't think I saw it. I think I shared it, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, it's on. I do it on Facebook. It's because of her. I was just cruising along. She works. She's a professional comedian type person who's been forced to embrace the internet. And I look up one day and she's going to be on somebody's comedy show, you know, that night. We already knew it. I already knew she was going to be there. I look up on Facebook and here's this little commercial of her in front of this, you know, stand-up comedy kind of a curtain. And he's like, hey, everybody, I'll be on this show a little while later. And I thought, wow, to create a video that's just disposable and make it like, you know, and it just hadn't dawned on me. The way I'd work YouTube just hadn't dawned on me. I tell you, I've been cranking them out ever since.
He has. I don't even do it now because I know Chris is going to do, you know, a little ad for the show that I can share.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So
That's
she's
awesome.
just been wonderful.
Well, my theory is that McDonald's advertises every day. And everybody knows what McDonald's is. Everybody knows where McDonald's is. Everybody knows what they sell. And yet McDonald's still advertises. Why would I do less?
Yeah, true. Good point. Yeah, because they kind of need it. They gotta.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you know what, guys? It's been almost 2 hours, and after this, I've got to set up for the Dungeons and Dragons game. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. We got some wonderful people who play D&D on our show. Atheist D&D, by the way. Matters or not, but.
Well, I have Leighann. I've bookmarked your YouTube and your website, so I'm going to check it out because I absolutely love comedians. It's
awesome.
Yeah. Yes, we're funny philosophers.
And she's my regular she's my regular co-host on Saturday. So anytime you want to come back, Doc, you got a free Saturday. Come hang out with us.
For real.
Cool.
For real.
Yeah, this is why there's a whole section of the Pelgrave pop culture thing that is dedicated to comedians as philosophers. Because I think that's exactly, I think they are a modern day version of a philosopher in most cases. I think that they're presenting philosophical arguments. I think this is, most obvious in the case of somebody like George Carlin, but also with somebody like Patton Oswalt, and I'm trying to think of even I just got through reading one of the chapters on Seinfeld about how he represents a kind of Jewish approach to epistemology, that his jokes mirror the way that Jewish intellectuals approach epistemology and how to know the world. I'm very much looking forward to looking at your stuff. Cool.
And you got an open invite. Anytime you're sitting there going, you know what, this Saturday I ain't got nothing to do.
You are welcome.
Give us a call. Yeah, shoot me a text, and we would
Thank
love
you
to nerd with you.
So much.
You raise the level of intellectual discourse on something that people might just love as something for fun, but there is a deeper meaning. And I'm glad you were here to sort of have fun with it and figure that out.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
I love being on. Anytime I have time, trust me, I will be asking you to be on. I was especially honored that someone had requested me, so I was like, oh, God,
absolutely, no doubt. Well, the wife and I are still. Remember, we have an agreement. After I finish, me and the wife finish Enterprise, then I'm going to call you back. We're going to discuss Enterprise. I just haven't. We haven't gotten there. We got distracted by the other. Now we're almost done with the other. I got a season of Picard to go to. Then I can go back and finish Enterprise, and I can be fully versed with everybody in the nerdverse. See, that's kind of my
yes. And what I think we should do is when you're done with Enterprise, I'll probably be around that time too. We'll all come back and talk about it. And then I actually want to encourage you to watch Star Trek Continues, and then come back and we'll talk about Continues too.
Yeah, I wrote that down. That's in my notes.
Okay. I'm trying to get the wife to watch the original series inadvertent, slow, but it's hard, bro. It's hard. I got her to watch half The Cage, but she works early in the morning and she fell asleep. And so she couldn't make it. Then
select the best episodes. Don't watch them in order. Just select the best episodes and have her watch the best episodes.
The only reason why I was having her watching The Cage and then the Menagerie is because we're watching Discovery and we've got Captain Pike. And she's going, she sees me going over here crying. I got tears coming. She's like, I thought you hated this show. I'm like, I love it and I hate it. There's parts I love and parts I hate. I love this part. Oh my God. And she didn't understand why. So I'm trying to force The Cage upon her, force Menagerie, and it just ain't working. She's asking, why does this mean something to you? Here is why. But it's hard to, know. So
hard to jump in there.
Yeah. So maybe someday, but you're asking me to watch the Star Trek Continues, which is essentially season 4 of Star Trek, the original series. And see, and
now I'm going to go back and try to struggle through
the first
Doctor Who, Matt Smith, after I'm done with Voyager.
There you go.
You mean Eccleston? You want to go? You mean Eccleston, right?
No, I've seen Eccleston, but I didn't watch all of Matt Smith.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Okay, I thought you were saying a while ago. I thought you said you got caught up on the Scottish guy in Capaldi and you quit when you got to Capaldi.
Well, I dipped in and out on both of them, and when I came back, I really tried to watch Capaldi, and I couldn't. It was so whiny.
I turn on the captions for Capaldi. I had to. But
yeah, I'm really having a hard time, and I also have a hard time with her because she speaks very fast, and for whatever reason, I find women are sometimes lower or harder to hear than men.
Could be. I mean,
for me, women's voices are the pitch is just a little low for me.
Yeah, but I turn on the captions for her too. So that's I've just since Capaldi, I've turned on the captions essentially.
We turn on the captions for our dogs. Because at any moment we could be watching any show and then one dog hears a bark, even just like a on the TV, and all four of them go up like freaking idiots. So it's just better. It's better to every time. I would love to have them in here and let them do the show, but I couldn't do it because at any moment they just So that's why we have the captions on.
Well, it's funny. I said when I finally watched Enterprise, because I didn't watch it real time. I only watched it last year. And I'm like, had somebody told me the captain had a dog, I would have watched this year's ago.
Right, the BJ. Porthos.
He is the worst guard dog ever. Like season 2 and 3, they're getting boarded and invaded all the time. And where's the dog? Dog is chilling. Dog didn't warn nobody. Dog didn't bark at nobody.
Didn't bite a single leg.
Why are you here?
just to eat cheese and be cute. That's all Porthos is there for.
Exactly. I'm like, y'all need a Rottweiler. Y'all need a dog that actually warns you what's coming.
A Mako, a member of the Makos.
Yes.
Yes, a Rottweiler Mako. All right, folks. Well, you know what? I'm going to run. I'm going to shut her down. Thank you so much. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me this Saturday. This was
so great.
It's always fun.
This was just lots of fun.
Amazing. So thank you all. Again, I've got links. I've changed all my descriptions. So now there are permalinks to all my co-hosts down in my description. So if you want to find Leighan's channel and a place to donate money to Leighann, if you want to throw her some coin, you'll find that for all my co-hosts in the link below. And of course, Dr. Kyle is one of our guests today, so you'll see all of his links as well to find his book, his great courses, all that is below. So don't forget to subscribe to her channel, buy his book, buy his course, subscribe to my channel, of course. And we'll see you later. You have a wonderful weekend and take care.
Yes, have a great weekend, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.